Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Ruthless Aggression Era podcast. As always, I am your host, Mel Matt, and joining me is
It's Space Boss. How are you guys?
the show once again. We had her on for the Royal Rumble 2003 show, and I think that one's actually one of my favorite so far. And so I definitely wanted to get Face Boss back for a future show. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I really like that show considering I've never seen that pay-per-view in full. So it's really good to watch that and to watch this show because I've never seen this pay-per-view before either.
Yeah, I hadn't seen this pay per view in its entirety. I've only seen like the last three matches beforehand. Before I watched it, like I saw the world title match, the Buried Alive match, and the Raw Survivor Series team match. But other than that, I hadn't really seen the first half of this show, so I didn't really know what to expect. But overall, I would say yeah, this was a pretty good show.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things happened and a lot of interesting types of matches. And overall, it was, yeah, a really interesting show, I would say.
And you were on the Royal Rumble 2003 show, and we were talking about this before we went on the air. I think it was really interesting to see how the landscape had changed between Royal Rumble and Survivor Series because that Royal Rumble was the very beginning of 2003, and now Survivor Series were nearing the end of 2003. So it was interesting to see how the landscape of WWE had changed between Royal Rumble and Survivor Series, two big four pay-per-views.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially those who have had feuds, as we discussed before, in matches, who are now friends, or maybe those who were maybe good guys had turned bad, and like it was really interesting to see how much it changed.
Yeah, and so Survivor Series 2003 took place in Dallas, Texas, and the set design I thought was pretty unique. What you think about this set design?
I wasn't a big fan of the orange circle things around the screen. I thought they could have maybe done something more in terms of what they put on the stage. But yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't. I don't know. I think they could have done more.
Yeah, I agree with you certainly. I thought it was an okay set design. I think what really makes it for me is the ambulance and the buried alive set. I think that's what really makes it for me. If they didn't have those two set pieces there, it probably would have been pretty lackluster. But I just remember playing that arena in Day of Reckoning all the time. So I don't know. I've always liked the set, but they could have done a bit more with the set.
Yeah, I did like when they panned out, you could see what was going to be happening later in the night and how they had the big buried alive set all ready to go. And so, yeah, I did like that added touch to it.
Yeah, and the theme song, oh man, do we have a song here? It's actually dubbed over on, even though it was being played on Raw and SmackDown leading up to it on the network. But the theme "Build a Bridge" by Limp Bizkit.
I loved
What'd you
it.
think of
I
this
loved
one?
the theme song.
Hmm. I was never really a big fan of this theme song, to be honest. It's not a bad song by any means. I think it's an okay ballad. I don't know if it particularly works well for a pay per view. But yeah, I think it's a decent enough ballad.
Yeah, I just liked, I
I
don't
like the
know,
chorus
like,
to it.
yeah, I was about to say I like the chorus and I really miss those sort of rock songs nowadays that we don't have for big
Same here.
pay-per-views. So
Yeah, I do miss the rock songs as well. Yeah, they really need to start bringing those back. Even if it's old songs, I'll be fine with that.
Agreed. It just gives it a different type of feel rather than maybe going for something more pop and upbeat, like giving it more of a harder edge, especially to some of these feuds that were on the card. It really helped and matched it quite well.
Mm-hmm. And they used Limp Bizkit like a lot around this time. They used the theme song for WrestleMania 19, WrestleMania 17. Limp Bizkit was Undertaker's theme song for a while, so they really used Limp Bizkit a lot during this time.
Ah, I see.
And so the opening match, what a match this is! It's Team Angle versus Team Lesnar. Team Angle consisting of Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, John Cena, Bradshaw, and Hardcore Holly, taking on the team of Brock Lesnar, Big Show, Nathan Jones, A Train, and Matt Morgan.
Yeah, so you had like this team of what they called like the monsters, commentary was calling them on Team Lesnar. And then you sort of had Team Angle, sort of like this oddball sort of team, but it really worked.
Yeah, I think Team Lesnar is the worst Survivor Series team ever. Like, I'm not a fan of a lot of these guys in the match. Like Nathan Jones, I don't think he ever lived up to his potential. Same with Matt Morgan. Brock Lesnar was sort of slowly kind of he was slowly going out of WWE at this time. He started to not really care as much anymore. Big Show wasn't really doing any good work around this time. When the only credible person on your team is A Train, there might be some trouble.
Agreed, because there's sort of the commentary saying like, oh, Nathan Jones, like he's new here, and Matt Morgan could be like a weak link. So if you get rid of like those two, then it sort of like leaves maybe like Lesnar's the one to watch and maybe Big Show. But yeah, they could have done a little bit better on maybe Lesnar's side.
Yeah, Matt Morgan recently got called up. Paul Heyman is now the new SmackDown general manager, and he introduced Nathan Jones and Matt Morgan as members of Lesnar's team.
Oh, I see.
And there are some interesting stories going into here. Farouk ended up getting storyline injured by A Train. And then John Cena, who was going to be in Team Lesnar, but he insulted the team and he got attacked by the entire team. So he ended up joining Team Angle instead.
Ah, yes. And there was also Hardcore Holly, who was having sort of a feud with Lesnar at the time.
Yeah, Hardcore Holly just came back from a severe neck injury. Brock Lesnar ended up breaking his neck a year prior, and so Hardcore Holly is out to get Lesnar, and that's exactly what he does in the opening of the match. He immediately goes after Lesnar, ends up getting disqualified right away, pushes the referee, even though the bell didn't ring yet, so he shouldn't have been disqualified.
Yeah, that was weird. If the match would have started, then I sort of would have understand, but it was kind of like before the match, so I was like the crowd, really confused.
Yeah, I think the idea is to kind of keep Holly and Lesnar separated because they do end up facing off at the Royal Rumble in a couple months after this for the title, which is a weird match on paper.
Yes, because it sort of leaves you wanting to see the match. So did they end up having a really good match in the end?
Right. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It's trying to this match a little bit. I've never seen that match. I'm going to watch it in a couple months for the podcast. So I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad, but I'll find out in a few months. So we get some rapid fire eliminations. A Train gets eliminated by Bradshaw. Bradshaw gets eliminated as well.
Yeah, they were really quick eliminations to start off with.
Yeah, it's a very strange booking. Like and they do that a little bit on the Raw Survivor Series team. I think it was done better then. But yeah, it's a very strange booking.
Yeah, especially when I guess they kind of wanted to show maybe the threat of Team um, Angle, or maybe they're going to lose like really quickly. But I think they could have maybe dragged out some of the eliminations instead of having them so close together.
Yeah, I think so as well. And Nathan Jones and Matt Morgan work over Team Angle, and both Matt Morgan and Nathan Jones get eliminated by Kurt Angle.
Yeah, I liked one of Cena's moves here. He calls it like the throwback sort of move that he does, where he goes up to like the rope and he bounces off and he goes like behind the guy's head and brings him down, kind of like in a DDT sort of way. And I think that's a move like he should bring back if he comes to the ring because that's a really good move.
Oh yeah, same here. That should have been his finishing move instead. I think it's much better
100%.
than the AA. And so Kurt Angle gets eliminated by Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he was like the team captain. I sort of like both like Lesnar as the team captain. So if Angle out, yeah, I would have liked to see maybe Angle in the last two, but yeah, it was a surprise.
Oh yeah, definitely a surprise. And the next elimination is a surprise as well because Brock Lesnar taps out to Chris Benoit's Crippler Crossface. I did not see that coming at all.
Me neither. I was like, there's no way Lesnar's going to tap if he's being built up, and of course, being the champion is this big machine. But yeah, he tapped, and the crowd went nuts for it.
Yeah, because I was expecting Lesnar to be the final guy in the match.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So now it's Benoit and Cena along with Big Show. And Cena ends up getting a low blow and a chain shot, and then an FU by John Cena, and Team Angle wins.
Yeah, when Cena picked up Big Show, I don't know if it's the first time he's done that, but commentary was really good here, and with the shock and surprise at how he could do it, and with the crowd cheering it on. So I suppose it was a really good way to end the match like that.
Yeah, I think it was in fact the first time that happened. Cena had did it to Rikishi several months back, but I do believe this was the first time that Cena had done that to Big Show.
Oh yeah.
And it ends up setting up a match at WrestleMania with Cena and Big Show for the United States title.
Oh wow. Oh yes, Big Show had the United States title. So kind of weird to see him carry like because the title looks so small, of course, on Big Show's shoulders. So for a moment I was like, oh, he's the United States champion. Okay.
Yeah, don't worry, Face Boss. I forgot he was United States champion too.
I was for sure thinking maybe world champion or something, when it comes to Big Show. So I was really surprised to see him with the title. So
Yeah, like his reign as United States champion is it's so forgettable. It really is. Like he really does nothing with this title the entire time he has it. But yeah, like what did you think about the match? How'd you like the match?
it was okay. I liked some of the moves, like the listener tapping out was a really good surprise. Cena at the end picking up Big Show. I thought Chris Bennett he did a really good job in the match, and so did Cena. But other than that, I don't know. It was an okay opener. What did you think?
I definitely agree with you as well. It was okay match. I think it was probably the weakest match on the card, but at the same time, it wasn't god awful either. Like I was expecting a lot worse considering who was on Team Lesnar. But other than that, it was the weakest match on the card. I thought, but at the same time, not a bad match at all. It was just kind of okay.
Yeah, it wasn't they did really well and mixed really well together, and it wasn't a bad match. It was just I suppose it was a good opener for the show.
Yeah, it did its job as the opener for the show. So backstage, Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon have a talk, and he notes that they are in separate matches against the Brothers of Destruction. And Shane says, "The only person I feel sorry for is you, Dad." Then Vince McMahon goes out to the hallway and runs into Stone Cold. The two share a hearty laugh, but Stone Cold stops laughing immediately. Stone Cold is the master. Stone Cold is the master of laughing and then immediately stopping.
He is so good at doing that because you sort of like fall for it and laugh too, but as soon as he stops laughing, you're like, oh my gosh, you better run.
Yeah.
It was
um.
really good.
Yeah. I like this segment, and it just dawned on me watching it that oh yeah, that's right. Shane and Vince did go up against the Bros of Destruction in separate matches on this card. I never realized that.
Yeah, me neither. And I thought they would sort of like Shane would kind of be getting along with his dad back here, but it seemed to me like I don't know that was there a feud going on between Vince and Shane during this time?
They were at odds a little bit because because when Shane returned to get revenge for Linda McMahon being Tombstone, he ended up punching Vince.
Oh,
And that was when Vince was wearing his orange Hawaiian shirt.
oh my gosh.
Which is underrated Vince look, I think.
Absolutely.
So next match, it's Molly Holly versus Alita for the WWE Women's Championship.
Yeah, this was a fine match. I could have done without like a little bit of the commentary during this match. It just makes brings me back to like, oh, that's how women's matches were told through commentary. And it was like, oh,
Yeah, it's a bit uncomfortable to listen to nowadays,
especially
especially from
Lawler.
Jerry. Yeah,
Yes, he's the worst. Like he's talked
yeah.
about and oh sorry, go on.
You can go on.
Yeah, so like when Lawler was talking about the story, I think it was like Jim Ross was next to him trying to like get into the match or tell about the moves here and there, and Lawler was just throwing stuff out there about the girls and how they looked and stuff, and I was just like, really, is that needed?
Yeah, like a lot of his commentary, especially at this time, was like that. And but I did notice a good King line that wasn't about that. Like he says something like, in WWE there aren't always happy endings, and I just immediately thought he just described modern day WWE so perfectly.
Yeah, how they're like, oh, this could be a perfect storybook ending, or then yeah, he was just like, well, some stories don't end happy here. I'm like, wow, that's a perfect line for everything that sometimes I see.
Yeah, totally. So this match I thought was pretty good. Lita gets the advantage at first, but Molly Holly just throws Lita right out of the ring, and it looks nasty. It's a nasty bump, I thought.
Yeah, I was really worried about Lita because didn't she just come back from her neck issues here?
Yeah, she just came back from a neck injury a couple months prior to this. And I will say this, like when Lita came back, not that the women's division was bad per se, but there wasn't really much happening. But when Lita came back, it really reinvigorated my interest in the women's division on Raw. Like for me, Lita has me interested in the women's division on Raw, watching this era of WWE.
Oh, yes. And I thought she did really well in this match, especially, and so did Molly Holly with some of the moves she was doing, like targeting her neck and putting her in like a dragon sleeper. And I thought that was a really smart move of her to do. And I thought they both worked really well together.
Yeah, so some great psychology in this match. Lita hits a brutal Lita bomb, and Lita goes for a moonsault, ends up missing, Molly Holly undoes the second turnbuckle, rams Lita into the exposed steel, and pins her for the win. Overall, a good match. I wasn't a fan of the ending. I wish Lita had won. I think that would have been a better story. Sort of that comeback story where she comes back from a long injury and ends up winning the title from the top heel. I think that would have been a better story for that. But other than that, I thought it was a pretty good match. It was a fun match, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. I thought the referee saw Molly expose the turnbuckle, but maybe he didn't. But from the camera angle they were using, it looked like he saw it. So I was really confused on why he didn't go over there and fix it. But maybe he didn't see it.
Yeah, it looked like he did. Like, I'm surprised Nick Patrick wasn't the referee.
But do they have another match after this? Because it seemed like this wasn't like the end of their feud.
I they might have one Raw. I think after this, Molly Holly goes into a feud with Victoria, who turns face, and we just kind of she just kind of floats around the card. I think. I can't remember if they had a match. They might have one Raw, but I forget.
But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the ending. I guess my thing is, okay, if this is like the ending, this would be a really good fight. The next match for Lita to win and sort of have that underdog story of someone that has scratched and clawed her way back from an injury and won. But I don't know. The ending now, thinking back to it, is just it was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the best thing that they could have done. Yeah, because Molly Holly goes on to retain it for a while longer. She ends up losing in February to Victoria. So Lita never really wins back the title until her match with Trish at the end of 2004.
Oh, I see. But I did like Molly Holly in this match because I haven't seen a lot of her wrestling. I've seen a lot of like Lita and Trish and Mickey and Victoria, but this was this kind of time I've seen one of her matches, and I thought she did really well.
Yeah, she was really good for this era. So coming up next, it's Shane McMahon versus Kane in an ambulance match.
Did you laugh at that video package with the opera music? Because I did.
A little bit, because this feud was so over the top. It is honestly like a horror movie. This entire feud.
I mean, I loved the video package. Don't get me wrong, because it was fantastic. But when they're playing
Mm-hmm.
that opera music, I was like, "That's funny."
Yeah, I really like the video package. This feud has just been off the. It has just been crazy. It's been off the wall. Just so much has happened. So it really does all go all the way back to July when Kane ends up tombstoning Linda McMahon. So Shane McMahon comes back and gets revenge, and they end up facing off. Like, they do so many horrible things to one another. Shane knocks Kane off the stage with a chair. Um, Kane ends up electrocuting Shane McMahon in the crotch area.
Yes, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, same here. Like, because this was at a time where it was a bit more edgier. It was still TV 14. I'm surprised they were able to get away with that.
Yes, I was surprised too. And then you had like Shane crashing a limo into Kane, and then you had fire, and then you had Kane waking up in the hospital. It was like, well, they did like a lot in this feud to make it really wild and big, I suppose. So I suppose it worked.
Oh yeah, it definitely worked. It was really crazy. But the craziest thing of all that happened when the go home show with Raw is when Shane and Kane had one final confrontation over a quiet dinner.
What?
Yeah, like Shane is at a restaurant and he invites Kane over and they just have a nice conversation about what they're going to do to one another at Survivor Series.
What? Oh, I see.
I thought that was the craziest thing in the feud.
That is crazy that they go through all of that and you're hurting his family, and then after fire and, electrocuting Shane's crotch, that you can just sit down and just talk casually about that.
So this match just insane right off the bat. Shane just clotheslines Kane right out of the ring, and it looks like Kane lands really awkwardly. Like the camera angle, we never get a good camera angle of it, but it just looks like he goes head first onto the mat.
Yeah, Kane is just so, of course, tall and long. So it did look like a bad sort of landing for both of them, but especially, yeah, Kane.
And so Shane grabs a chair right away and sort of chair slams the steel steps into Kane, and he hits an elbow through the Spanish announce table.
That was an awesome move. Like, that was really good, and the crowd was on their feet for that. And that was a really good opening for Shane just straight away to go on the attack.
Yeah, so Shane McMahon goes backstage. He uses the SmackDown Here Comes the Pain method and follows the blue arrow backstage.
Yeah, one of the cameras cuts out, and you can hear the crowd booing. I don't know if they wanted to do those two camera cuts, or maybe it was on purpose, but I thought it worked for the story.
Yeah, I think it does work. To me, it almost feels like a pre-tape. Like it would explain why there's sort of that the camera just kind of goes. I don't know. It could have been done live, but part of me feels like it may have been a pre-tape.
Yeah, commentary did a really good job. They're like, "Oh, Kane knocked over the cameraman because he's evil," and that, which is pretty good.
Yeah, so they end up going backstage, and Shane McMahon runs over Kane and knocks him through a security booth.
You just see all this glass on the ground, and oh my gosh, man.
So Shane calls for a second ambulance and tries to put Kane in it. Kane fights back, slams Shane into the walls. The two end up going to the entrance area where they battle with the ambulance. Shane even hits coast to coast on Kane off the ambulance.
Yes, I was really nervous for that move because if he jumped off a little bit too soon, he would have hit the concrete. So I was really nervous for him doing it.
Yeah, it's a really scary spot, which you could probably say that about a lot of Shane McMahon spots.
Yes, he really goes all out there in his wrestling and does all these big moves, and especially that move. And when Kane was throwing him into the ambulance, you could just hear his head smacking into it. Shane was just, oh my god, I was worried about Shane's head by the end of the match.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think that's one thing I do respect about Shane, the fact that he is the boss's son. Like he doesn't have to do all these death defying stunts and all that, but he chooses to, and that's something I have to respect because I don't think I could do him.
Exactly, I agree. He could just co-spy or be okay in his matches, but to do what he does shows he respects wrestling a lot. So I respect him for that.
Oh yeah, totally. The finish of the match comes when Kane ends up tombstoning Shane on the concrete and puts him in the ambulance to win.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting maybe a win from Kane here, but I liked the ending. What did you think?
I like the ending. I love this match. I thought this was a great match. I'm torn on which one was the better match. The one at Unforgiven 2003, which was the last man standing match, or this one. They're both so different, but at the same time, they are similar as well. So I don't know. They're two great hardcore matches. So it's tough to say which one was better, but I really enjoyed this match. This is the kind of match that I love wrestling. This is what really got me into wrestling was the hardcore style of matches like this.
Yeah, this was a really fun match. I would say this was my favorite match on the show, just because of how well they worked together and how fun it was and how they used the backstage area as well as the weapons. And normally ambulance matches now aren't really good, like it just doesn't work, but these two made it work so well.
Yeah, I agree with you there about the ambulance matches nowadays, and I feel like it was because in this one they were allowed to go all out. They were given more freedom, probably due to the fact that the product at the time was a bit more edgier. Nowadays, since it's PG, I don't know if they can really go as far as they could back then. But yeah, this was a really fun match. I did enjoy the Shane and Kane rivalry, and now Shane McMahon is written off of TV for the next few years. He doesn't come back until he and Vince feud with DX in 2006.
Oh, really? So he goes away for quite a bit.
Yeah, same with Stephanie. The month prior, No Mercy, Vince beat her in an I Quit match, and she's gone for the next few years as well. She doesn't come back till 2008, I believe.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, I think this was a good send off into that storyline for Shane because, yeah, you don't come back from that sort of move. And they did really well throughout the night explaining about Shane going to the hospital and stuff. So that was good as well.
Yeah, they did. I think after the Eddie after the Los Guerreros Bastions match, they do say that like Shane was taken to a hospital. He's getting a CAT scan and all of that. So it was really cool that they gave sort of an aftermath to that match.
Yeah.
So we get a segment coming up next. Coach comes out and gives us an update on his health, and we get a great JR line here. Can't remember how exactly the line went. Well, he says something like, "Coach should be an enema volunteer."
Oh, yes. I heard that line and I did chuckle.
So,
Coach is
Coach,
really good, isn't he, though?
yeah, he is, especially at this time because he had just turned heel around this time, and yeah, like the heel turn worked wonders for him because he he really does have this heel personality that you really love to hate.
Exactly. He plays to the crowd so well here when he reassures them that he's okay, even though he just had like this big match with Shane and Kane. So everyone's thoughts were on that, and he played into that really good.
Yeah, because Coach ended up getting a 3D from the Dudley Boys this past week on Raw, and so he's in a soft car neck brace tonight.
No, I see.
And then Coach notices Dallas Mavericks co-owner or owner Mark Cuban and invites him to the ring, or Eric Bischoff invites him to the ring, and the two end up having a bit of a shoving match. And then Randy ordered RKO's Cuban.
Yeah, I thought the Mark Cuban did well here, especially selling their RKO, which can be hard, of course, if you're not a wrestler and you don't know that sort of stuff. But I thought he did well.
Yeah, I think he did well. It definitely came across like he was a fan.
He said a line, and when the commentary started laughing, then Mark was just like, "Well, all referees suck,"
And
and I was like,
I
"Well,
did
I
love a
think
lot.
honest feeling."
Yeah, and I also love the line that JR had here when they're all doing this. When like Mark Cuban comes into the ring, it's like what happened to the Survivor Series?
It was a good segment because sometimes, it's hard to go between that big match into the next. Like, what do you do to keep the crowd's attention and sort of make something interesting as happen as well? So this really worked for that.
Oh yeah, totally. Like this was a good breather to kind of give the crowd just kind of a chance to breathe after that ambulance match.
Exactly. They didn't put on like a random filler match or a match that they just scrambled together. They did something that still worked and was still entertaining, which was good.
Yeah, for sure. So the next match is Los Guerreros versus the Basham Brothers for the WWE Tag Team Championships.
I liked Eddie's entrance here with Chavo in the car, and I miss Eddie's music because that music's so good.
Same here for sure. There's an interesting story going on in this match. The Basham Brothers end up winning the tag titles from Los Guerreros about a week after No Mercy. Eddie Guerrero's actually been on a bit of a losing streak, and Chavo is also in the middle of a slow heel turn. Sort of getting a bit egotistical, blaming Eddie for their losing ways. He even at one point says that like he says something like you haven't been this bad since you were addicted to alcohol and drugs, which is such a horrific line to say.
Oh wow, they really go there, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And like the next week, like Eddie cuts one of his best promos because he's on the verge of tears throughout the entire promo. He's like, "How can you say that? Like that's really hurtful." And they tried to defend it like it's like so like he's trying to motivate Eddie, but in hindsight, you can kind of see Chavo slowly turning heel against his uncle.
Man, that's a really good story. Then I suppose, bringing something like that up in the story, but making it work. And you really probably would feel for Eddie because throughout this match, commentary is kind of telling the story of how much like Eddie wants to do this big win and how much he has lost and through like this tag team feud. So for his nephew to sort of like turn on him, that's really getting you behind Eddie as this underdog.
Yeah, totally. And Eddie, soon after this, Eddie does go into the main event scene. He ends up winning the W title and all that. So it's a good kind of warm up feud for Eddie before he goes into the main event scene.
Yeah, because Eddie can be a really good heel, but he can also be this really natural, charismatic, like really good face as well. So that would have been like a really perfect storyline for him.
Yeah, for sure. The beginning of this match just starts off intense. Los Guerreros go immediately after the Bashams.
Yeah, and they had the Basham brothers had someone at ringside. I think her name is Shaniqua, if I can
Yeah,
remember.
Shaniqua.
Yeah, and she got involved a lot in the match, and right away, like Eddie and Chavo were smart and knew like she'd probably get involved, so they had their eyes on her as well.
Yeah, and at one point, Eddie even hits a frog splash on her in the ring.
It was a really good frog splash too.
And so the finish of the match comes. There's a bit of a miscommunication comes. Chavo hits some kind of tornado DET, but ends up connecting with Eddie as well. And the Basham brothers pull a little twin magic and roll up Chavo using the tights for the win.
Yeah, it was really hard. Like I sort of missed it at what happened at first because it was so quick. But yeah, Chavo just accidentally hit Eddie, and they had that confrontation after the match where Eddie was up in Chavo's face. But yeah, it was an accident. So
Yeah, so overall, I thought it was a pretty good match. I thought it was a lot better than their SmackDown match that they had when the Bashams actually won the title. This was a really good match and sort of further it sort of furthers the story between Eddie and Chavo, where Chavo eventually turns heel.
and what happens to the Basham brothers after this? Do they go on more? Because I don't know who the Basham brothers are. So this was my first introduction to them in this match.
They still go on. They still sort of go into the tag title division. They still sort of defend their tag team titles.
Oh yeah, because I liked them in this match. I think they're a pretty good tag team.
Yeah, and they end up losing their titles to Rikishi and Sky 2 Hottie in February.
I see.
So they're in the tag team division for a bit while longer.
Yeah, I liked this match. I thought it was a really good tag team match. And yeah, you're right, it does prolong the story, and we're now seeing more like Chavo and Eddie and tension there, while the Basham brothers retain and then they go on. So both stories work really well.
Yep, and I believe Eddie and Chavo do end up facing off at the Royal Rumble.
Ah, I see. I might have to watch like that match because I haven't seen like Chavo and Eddie face off before in a match, so it should be fun.
Oh yeah, totally. The next match, this is a match I've been wanting to talk about since I started the podcast because this match is one of my all-time favorite matches in WWE history. It's the Raw Survivor Series team. It's Team Bischoff versus Team Austin. Team Bischoff consisting of Chris Jericho, Christian, Randy Orton, Scott Steiner, and Mark Henry. And Team Austin consists of Shawn Michaels, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and the Dudley Boys. And if Team Austin wins, then the stipulation where Stone Cold can't touch anybody without being physically provoked, that rule is gone. But if Team Bischoff wins, Stone Cold has to resign as co-general manager of Raw.
They did an amazing job with the video package before this match started in highlighting Stone Cold being a general manager and why he's not a fan of that stimulation of he can only touch someone if he's provoked. Because he is the guy that whoops ass and doesn't care what anyone thinks. And then for his job to be put on the line, it really gets you hyped up for him and wanting to see him win against Team Bischoff's team.
Yeah, Stone Cold became GM of Raw in April 2003. And just what kind of kept beating up people that kind of pissed him off. And Linda McMahon comes and says, like, you can't keep beating up everybody. And says that if you want to remain on Raw as GM, you have to abide by the stipulation where you can't touch anybody unless you're physically provoked. And Stone Cold hates it because he feels he can't be the Texas rattlesnake unless he can whip ass. You know what I mean? So he does make a deal with Eric Bischoff for this match, and they do sort of play upon the fact that one of Stone Cold's mottos is DTA, don't trust anybody, and sort of the idea that at Survivor Series for this match, he has to trust somebody, and not even just somebody, but five bodies. Now he has to trust five people with his job, so it's sort of an interesting thing that they're doing for this storyline.
Yeah, I agree. Now he has to put his trust in other superstars while he can't be in the match himself. So I thought that was an interesting layer to add to the story, and I think it worked really well.
Yeah, and, one interesting thing is that both teams come out together. Like Team Austin comes out together, Team Bischoff comes out together, which basically screams we don't have any time for separate entrances for
100%, that was my thought too.
So Devon and Christian start things off.
Yeah, I like Devon in this match. I thought he did really well. And it was a good opener and starter by just straight away going both teams getting their guys in while also building anticipation for maybe a Shawn Michaels who's on the outside that people may want to see in the match. So what did you think of the start?
I thought the start was really good. Steiner ends up applying the Steiner recliner on Booker T, which really surprised me because I don't think Steiner's really used that move in a while at this point in time. I don't think he had used it since April, May, or something like that. So it would have been a while since he had used it. So it was nice to see that move kind of make a comeback.
Yeah, that I thought that was really cool to see that sort of submission type move in this big match that is happening. And I also thought RVD when he got in, he was really good in his suplexes, and he was just I thought he was like the highlight in terms of net team on the match.
Yeah, so Stacey Keebler ends up distracting Scott Steiner, and Scott Steiner gets hit with a bookend, and he gets eliminated. Then Booker gets eliminated by Mark Henry after a World's Strongest Slam.
Yeah, pretty quick eliminations back to back. What did you think of Mark Henry straight away eliminating Booker T? Did you want Booker T to stay on a little bit longer?
I totally did because I love Booker T, so I was kind of disappointed in that. But I think he got enough I think he was able to make enough of an impression. And I think around this time they were trying to kind of spotlight Mark Henry a bit as well. So I got why they had him eliminate Booker T early.
Yeah, because yeah, it did seem like Mark Henry with his new manager, they were trying to put him in the spotlight. But at the same time, I did like Booker T in this match, and I did think he got a bit of a shine in this one.
Yeah, so RVD and the Dudley Boys end up eliminating Mark Henry all at once. Like all of them just pile on him and pin him simultaneously.
That was pretty good, and it was a smart move because to eliminate a guy like that, you would all need to sort of do your finishing moves and to get him. So that worked.
Yeah, so RVD ends up getting eliminated by Orton after an RKO.
Yeah, I loved RVD in this one. So yeah, I was booing Randy along with everyone else.
Yeah, same here, because I love Rob Van Dam.
But how young is Randy here? He looks really young in this match. Was he just kind of new to the roster?
He had debuted about a year prior.
Okay, because he looked really good in this match as well.
Yeah, he was pretty young here. Trying to think how old he was exactly. I think he might have been like 23 or 24 at this time.
Oh wow, so he's been in the WWE for a long time.
Yeah, ever since 2002.
Oh wow. But yeah, he's a good heel and he did a really good job, I thought, in this match, especially eliminating a crowd favorite like RVD.
Yeah, and around this time, Randy Orton was great as the Legend Killer, which is my favorite Randy Orton persona.
Yes, I think yes, I like it as well.
So both Dudley Boys get eliminated by Jericho and Christian, respectively. And so now it seems like an impossible situation because it's Shawn Michaels all by himself against Jericho, Christian, and Orton.
Yes, because now you've got just like one person on your team against all these others, and Stone Cold must be freaking out because, of course, his job's on the line.
Yeah, and Shawn Michaels ends up getting busted open. And like he blades so deeply, like he's just covered with blood by the end of the match. But at the same time, I thought it really worked well for the match and the story that they were telling.
Agreed. Yeah, there was like blood all over his face and his hair. So much blood, but I thought it worked because you've got this guy who's trying to stand up for his friend and for his job and trying to protect himself, and he's bleeding everywhere. But then the crowd, of course, is chanting and wanting to see him get to the end. So I thought it worked really well in this match.
Yeah, like HBK ends up getting sweet chin music out of nowhere, and Christian eliminates him, and he ends up getting inside cradle on Jericho to eliminate him. So now it's Orton and Michaels 1-on-1.
Yes, I liked these two in the ring because, of course, I thought they worked really well, and I liked. Oh, sorry, yeah, Y2J did a really good job in this match, with playing to the crowd. I thought he did that really well, and to Stone Cold who was sitting ringside watching. But yeah, I thought Randy and Sean being the final two, especially with Randy being the legend killer, and that's his status. I think he definitely should have been one of the last ones in.
Yeah, the last ones were picked really perfectly because Randy Orton has promised to kill the legend of Stone Cold. And he and Shawnee even had a bit of a feud going on around this time as well. So I think it works very perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. And the commentary for this at this moment when it's Sean and Randy, I thought Jim Ross did really good on selling like the shock of saying now there's these two guys and how much like a miracle was needed for Sean to win. So I thought commentary did really good here.
Yeah, and even King goes like, "JR, you don't have to stand up. I can't help it."
He did really well, yeah.
Yeah, and JR, he's always been very very best friends with Stone Cold, so it really made sense that JR was extra invested in this match, considering that his best friend's job was on the line in storyline.
Yes, he did. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, he did really good job with wanting to, of course, see Sean win and retain this, and selling us on like the shock and anger, and when Randy ever had the upper hand on Sean. So I thought he was really good in this match as well.
So Shawn Michaels makes a comeback, and Eric Bischoff gets in the ring and karate kicks Shawn, and Stone Cold just goes ballistic on Bischoff, beats the crap out of him, beats him up the aisleway. And then while Austin is beating up Eric Bischoff, Batista comes in out of nowhere. Batista bombs HBK, and Randy Orton pins Shawn Michaels to get the win for Team Bischoff. Stone Cold has to resign as GM.
So was this really his like retirement match because or his retirement here? Because I was shocked.
Um, it was supposed to be. He ended up coming back like a month later.
Really?
Yeah, like a month after this, he's back as Sheriff of Raw.
Because of course I had no idea seeing this for the first time. So when I was like for sure like Sean's going to win this because Stone Cold's not going to go away now. So of course my face when Sean got pinned, I was like, wait, what's happening? I
I
couldn't
mean,
believe it.
yeah, like they do sell it very well here. Like in hindsight, yeah, Stone Cold doesn't come back like a month later, but at the time, watching this, like it's pretty shocking, and they do sell it like, okay, this is Stone Cold's last time ever in WWE, and he even comes out for a promo after this, and his performance is great because it feels like his voice is just about gone. Like he sounds really choked up. Like I started my career in 1989 in Dallas, and I didn't want it to end tonight. But if it had to end, I'm glad it was in Dallas.
Yes, because like when he came out and like the crowd was doing a bit of that what chance, and then I was a little bit like thinking, well, maybe he's going to say something here, but yeah, when he said goodbye and you could tell he was getting really emotional, like you did feel like bad for him and want to see him again. And if he is right, kind of I agreed with him here, like if he had to maybe go out then doing it in Dallas, Texas, like the rattlesnake, it did fit perfectly. So yeah, but he sold me on like him leaving. So
Yeah, like, it's a great promo. And then Coach comes out because a couple weeks prior to this, Stone Cold said to Coach, "I want you to do the post match interview because you were the first person I want to see after the match."
ah, he did really good job coming out here because he got massive hate and I was hating him too. And he was getting like asshole chants and people like were booing him and he was like lapping it up. So, oh, it was a good moment for like that to happen. And of course, because you don't want to see like that's a speech, and like, because how do you transition from like that to like the next match? So having this moment in here work.
Yeah, so Coach comes out with security and sings goodbye to Stone Cold. And he ends up asking the question, "How does it feel to know that you're through?" And Stone Cold beats up security, beats up Coach, ends up stunning Coach, who sells the stunner great here. Like he just flies throughout the ring.
Yeah, he sold it really well, especially when you have him like trying to like on the ground where the ropes are, and Stone Cold, of course, is going after him, and there's not much room to like sort of move. But he was doing really well, selling on his face what was happening, and trying to plead and be like, "No, I didn't mean any of that."
So yeah, this was a pretty good send off for Stone Cold, at least at the time. Since he does come back a month later, but at the time it was a good send off for Stone Cold, and he does end up leaving two empty beer cans in the ring.
Yes, that was such a good touch then. And yeah, for me, of course, I kind of thought like this was it, and it was like, emotional. And then seeing him, leave those beer cans and saying like bye to the crowd, it worked so well. And of course, you think like, okay, what's going to happen next on Raw, how will like the heels like respond to like Stone Cold going, and how will Shawn react, because that's his best friend, and he tried and everything for him. So
Yeah, like Eric Bischoff does become the sole general manager of Raw for a bit, but none other than Mick Foley becomes co-general manager for a very brief time.
oh, how does Mick Foley do as general manager?
He did fine from what I remember. He was only there for about a month or so. It sort of kind of builds on to his feud with Randy Orton, because near the end of his run as GM, he is supposed to have a match with Randy Orton on Raw, but he ends up walking out of it because he doesn't think he can still go, and Randy Orton spits in his face and calls him a coward, and that sets up WrestleMania as well as Backlash.
Oh wow, would that be a good match to go back and see with those two?
Oh, they're going to be great matches, especially their Backlash match. I think that Backlash match really makes Randy Orton as a performer.
Yeah, especially going against someone like Mick Foley, who would always like put everything into his like matches and stuff. So I might go back and see that match.
Mick Foley really made Randy Orton a star during their feud.
Yeah, and to have like go from Eric Bischoff to Mick Foley, that must have been like a big change. But Mick Foley is such a good like face, of course, and he so works so well with the crowd. Like, and then to go against someone like Randy, who is like the legend killer, that would have been a really good match for him.
Oh yeah, totally. So the next match, it's another match I've wanted to talk about forever. This is a match that I really enjoy as well. It's the Undertaker versus Mr. McMahon in a Buried Alive match.
Yeah, very like, of course, I haven't seen these like many Mr. McMahon matches, but a very strange matchup. But I like the video package on highlighting why Taker has a beef with Mr. McMahon because of like he won't let him be champion. But then Mr. McMahon thinks he has like the spiritual belief like he has to be the one to bury the Undertaker alive. Like I think that really works.
Yeah, because the whole storyline is that Undertaker tried to win the title at No Mercy, and Vince ends up screwing him out of the title. And so the following week on SmackDown, Paul Heyman gives him an option that if he wins a handicap match against Big Show and Brock Lesnar, he gets to have a match of his choosing anytime, any place, anywhere. And he chooses Vince McMahon at Survivor Series in the Buried Alive match. And Vince just goes absolutely nuts during this time. And then Vince says that, I've been chosen, to bury the Undertaker alive. And he even says that he has a higher power looking after him, which to me, it didn't really make any sense because wasn't he the higher power?
Exactly, but I suppose it kind of works to Mr. McMahon's like ego, like thinking like he's the chosen one and he has to be the one above everyone else to like take down like the Undertaker. And he did some pretty messed up things, didn't he, to Undertaker, where commentary mentioned like stuff about his wife, like Undertaker's wife and the kids. Like I was shocked.
Yeah, Vince says some really horrible things during this time. Like he says that he's going to hire a motorcycle gang to gang rape the Undertaker's wife in front of him. He says that he's going to have terrorists blow up the Undertaker's house. He says that he's going to have his kids kidnapped. Like it's just horrific things that I cannot believe they got away with.
Same. I was like, Jesus, like, could you imagine like them trying to say those lines today? They would not at all get away with it. So to hear like commentary say that and then just like move on to the next thing, I'm like, wait a minute, what did he say?
Yeah, like it's insane. Like just absolutely horrible things that they did. You know.
And I don't think like, they didn't need to say all those stuff because selling me on Mr. McMahon, thinking he's like above everyone else and has to end the Undertaker, and thinking he's better than the Undertaker would have worked. I still think it would have worked other than adding all this personal stuff, but then again, Undertaker being like so angry and snapping in this match and what he did, I think worked too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think they really needed to say all those things to make the storyline work.
Yeah, but I liked the commentary, like Taz breaking it down before the match, on the screen how they had like advantages for like Taker and then like advantages for Mr. McMahon. I thought that was a really cool idea to say like why this guy should win or why this guy could win. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that as well. The keys to victory. Undertaker had like the hometown advantage because Undertaker's from Houston, Texas, so he has the sort of Texas vibe going for him. And he's also been in the most buried alive matches. Like it's sort of like his signature match, so he sort of has the advantage there, and he has the submissions to wear down Vince. And then Vince has like the mental instability because he's insane, so he's that makes him unpredictable. And then he says that he has a lot of confidence to the higher power. And then he basically says that Vince has to use his cunning and his speed to avoid the hole. So I really like that. I do wish that they would bring that back for today, like they would have like Corey Graves do something similar like that. I think that would really work.
I agree because it kind of adds a more personal element and then kind of like instead of just showing the match, delving into the story and both guys' wrestling backgrounds or why they could win this match. I think it adds a different layer and gets me more interested in what's happening. So they could maybe add that back to some of the matches. I would like to see it.
Yeah, it had like a big fight feel to it, like a legit fight. Like I think it works really well here.
Yeah, and I liked Undertaker's or Biker Taker's song. I haven't seen much of like Biker Taker because when I was like into wrestling, of course, Undertaker is and who he is now is what I was introduced to. So hearing his old theme music was pretty cool.
You've done it now. You've gone and made a big mistake.
It was so cool. I loved it.
Yeah, I like that theme song as well. Like I wouldn't say it's my favorite Undertaker theme, but for the time, I think it worked.
Yeah, and him coming out on like the motorbike, and of course, what he was wearing is different to now. But I think it worked for, of course, like the match and that era. And I thought the song was pretty cool. But yeah,
Yeah, so Undertaker immediately makes Vince McMahon bleed. Like one punch, and he's already bleeding.
he was bleeding a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah, like I think maybe even more than Sean. I think he broke the Muda scale here.
He was like bleeding all over like the floor area, and I was like, oh my god, that's a lot of blood.
Yeah, I think it works for the story here. Like, and that's my thing with blood and matches. It's like, I think it can be overused at times. I think if it fits for the story and if it's for the match, like if it's a Hell in a Cell match or a Burial Eye match like this, then I think it can work. Like if it's just a normal match and somebody's bleeding, I don't think that works. But when it's in a stipulation based match like this, like a match that's supposed to be like barbaric and destructive, I think that's when blood can really add to a match.
I agree with you. I've always gone on like do it when it's needed, like not when you just want to do it. Like those really personal stories, and I think isn't it like you should use blood or of course in Hell in a Cell, but when you use it a lot, it sort of becomes yeah, as you say, like overdone.
Yeah, so Undertaker continues to pummel Vince. Um, Kind of rams his grapefruits into the steel pole. Rams his knee into the steel pole as well. Just a lot of brutal stuff in this match.
Yeah, he just like goes after his legs, everything, of course. And commentary mentions this line of like Undertaker wants to make sure like Vince McMahon's no longer breathing, and I'm like, so So he wants to murder him in this match.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like Undertaker says that, like, because Vince said that, like, as long as I'm breathing in and out, as long as I'm alive, you will never be WWE champion. Then, and then in the pre-taped interview that they did on SmackDown, Undertaker says that, like, he says that, well, I guess it's time that he stops breathing. And I just took it as like, so Undertaker's going to murder Vince.
Yeah, he's like, well, I suppose he can't. He should stop breathing. Then I'm like, wait a minute, are you planning to commit murder on live TV, Undertaker?
I mean, he does kind of do it a year later with Paul Bear. even
Oh
though
yes,
he
I
Paul,
remember Paul.
yeah, even though Paul Bear does go on to live in storyline, it still is like attempted murder on Undertaker's part.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it does add that because you understand Undertaker's anger at what Vince has been doing to him. I just thought that line really stuck out to me when they said that.
Yeah, totally. So Undertaker ends up choking Vince with a camera wire, and then Undertaker goes and gets a shovel and just bangs Vince with it. Like God, like the sound of it was just insane.
Hear the sound, like, oh gosh. But I've always give like kind of credit here to Vince. Like when he is in matches like this, he really puts himself on the line and make sure to sell those big things. So I can't like go back and say, well, he could be doing this because he is the boss and he could not just not get involved in matches and he doesn't have to be. So to do this, I mean, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's something that he and Shane have in common, which is like they don't really have to do what they do, but at the same time, they really do just go all out and just do whatever they can to get this thing over. And that's something I can really appreciate and respect about the both of them is that they do go all out in their matches.
Yeah, he did really well, Vince, here on selling all that blood and, of course, what Taker has done to him. And yeah, I thought that was really well done by him.
So Undertaker carries Vince to the gravesite, and Vince does get a bit of a few spots in. He low blow, like he throws dirt in Undertaker's eyes, low blows him and hits him with a shovel. But Undertaker is able to pull him into the hole, and Undertaker goes into the bulldozer, and kaboom! A firework goes off, and that's gotta be Kane.
It's gotta be Kane. I was so confused. I was thinking, why is Kane here? And why is he helping Vince?
So Kane was the higher power all along. It was
Oh
me,
my
Undertaker.
gosh.
It was me all along, Undertaker.
Well, only WWE can think of their big twist in stories and make it like that.
Yeah, like it feels random at the time, but on SmackDown, Kane sort of explains it like, me and my brother, we used to be monsters, but he changed. He became human. He became a biker. He became, like he wasn't a monster anymore. So that's Kane's reason for why he attacked Undertaker.
I see. So I can sort of get it from his perspective. But at the same time, Undertaker was in a buried alive match where he was doing monstrous things if you kind of want to look at it to Vince. So, but
Right.
then you're also being human by siding with Vince McMahon of all people.
So yeah,
I
Vince
suppose it was an
McMahon.
interesting way to end the match.
Oh yeah, it absolutely was. At the time, I didn't see it coming, but in retrospect, it actually does make sense because Undertaker and Kane do end up fighting at WrestleMania.
Oh, how do they do at WrestleMania?
It was pretty much a squash match because that was the WrestleMania where Undertaker officially came back as the Dead Man persona. Because this is actually the last match with Biker Taker.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you think this was like a good send off match to that gimmick that he did?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a good send off. It definitely made sense for Undertaker to be buried alive and then be resurrected as the dead man. Even though I love the Biker Taker character, so I was really sad to see it go. But at the same time, it definitely made sense.
Yeah, it's a good story other than him just coming back randomly and being changed to have like the story where he is buried alive and he comes and he rises back as someone new. I think that works and that's good.
Yeah. So, what do you think of this match as a whole? How would you like this match?
Overall, I like this match, and I thought maybe they could have gone a little bit longer in showing us more. But I thought it was a really cool personal story, and like with like blood, and then you have like this added twist element with Kane coming in at the end that leaves you wanting more questions and stuff. So I think it worked for what they wanted to tell.
Yeah, like I love this match. Again, like Shane and Kane, like these kinds of matches, like these kind of sort of like outlandish hardcore matches, is sort of what got me into wrestling in the first place. And so these kind of matches I always love, and I think this one it really did very well. I think Undertaker was really kind of highlighted as this kind of monster that he was still biker taker, he was still human, but it was like if you pissed him off, you you done now, you've gone and made a big mistake.
Ex- yes, definitely. It was a really, I loved this match. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so now coming up next, it's time for the main event. It's Goldberg versus Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I liked the video package for this and the story they told before the match, especially of like the $100,000 thing that Triple H put out on Goldberg, because I thought that was a really good reason of why you would want to attack Goldberg to get that money.
Yeah, like the storyline going into this is great. Like pretty much everything about this match is improved upon from their Unforgiven match, because their Unforgiven match, there wasn't much to the match itself, and even the storyline there wasn't much to it as well. Here with Goldberg, with Triple H putting a $100,000 bounty on him. Like the storyline, it's very old school. Like it reminds me of like 80s style wrestling. And it works. It works. So Triple H puts a $100,000 bounty on Goldberg, and a lot of people will try to attack him. And Batista ends up returning from an injury and ends up getting the bounty by crushing Goldberg's ankle.
Yeah, Batista comes back and gets the money, which wouldn't you feel a little bit slighted if you're the other guys and then like Triple H's best friend gets the money?
Yeah, I know, right?
But I thought it was a really good way on to, with the injury of Goldberg and not knowing like he, him being champion still, like how could he come back with an injury like that was really good.
Yeah, because Eric Bischoff, like the week after it happens, Eric Bischoff comes down to the ring with the world title and says that, the hell with the 30-day rule. There's no way Goldberg's going to come back in that time. So he tries to give the world title to Triple H, but Stone Cold says that not so fast. Goldberg is going to be defending the title against Triple H at Survivor Series. And so Goldberg, coming back after a kayfabe injury, and this was also Triple H's first match in a couple months. He hadn't wrestled since the night after Unforgiven, back in September.
Oh, really? Oh, why is that? What was he doing when he wasn't wrestling?
He had a legit injury at the time. He had a torn groin at the time, which is why he was wearing those like biker shorts or whatever they're called.
Oh, I see. So there was a lot of injuries sort of happening around this time.
Yeah. So this match, I actually thought was pretty good. I thought it was a way better than their Unforgiven match, because there wasn't much to that match. But this one had some good psychology here. Triple H really targeting the shattered ankle of Goldberg.
Yeah, I thought this match was okay. It kind of gave me like memories of, or going back to like Seth versus Triple H when Seth was injured, and like Triple H was targeting Seth in that WrestleMania match. I thought this match was like very heavily focused, of course, on Goldberg's injury and the targeting of Goldberg's leg more. And I suppose, like, I don't know, I think it could have done a little bit more, especially if you're ending Survivor Series after that big, you know, take it and man match like this.
Yeah, this is one of the few times where I actually wouldn't have minded a world title match going on earlier. Not that this match, not that I thought that this match was bad per se, but like going on after like Buried Alive and the Raw Survivor Series match and stuff like that, it definitely feels lackluster. And it's not a great match by any means because I feel like these two they never really had the kind of chemistry that they probably should have. But I think overall, I like the match for what it was. It wasn't a 5-star match or anything like that, but I thought it was a solid to good match for what it was.
Yeah, and I thought Ric Flair was really good in this match. Like he is the manager, but he manages to still add in who he is, and by like attacking Goldberg when the ref isn't watching, and like helping Triple H. Like he's a really good heel manager.
Yeah, he interferes a lot in this match.
I know so many times that you would think like the ref would just be like, "Okay, Rick, you can go now."
And I love how at one point Goldberg ends up bumping the referee, or Triple H ends up bumping the referee, and Triple H does some move to Goldberg, and Goldberg ends up kicking out at the very last second, and Triple H just drops an elbow onto Earl Hebner.
Ouch! Yeah, that looked really like I don't know to me like really nasty with that elbow drop, like right near his like head. Like damn.
Yeah, like it looked really brutal.
Yeah, but then you sort of like that's in Triple H's like character, like when he like tries to cheat and then gets frustrated when like nothing happens out of it.
Oh, it was the when he hit him with brass knuckles. That was the spot.
Yes, but yeah, I liked that spot in there.
Yeah, like I just remember exactly what the spot that was.
Yeah, I thought Triple H, yeah, with that with the ref down, and then you're thinking, oh my gosh, like Ric Flair is going to come in, or like Evolution might come down, and like the and Triple H will somehow win back the title.
Yeah, and then Evolution does come down. Like all four members get involved in the match. Goldberg hits them all with a sledgehammer, and Goldberg is able to hit his spear and a jackhammer on Triple H for the win.
Yeah, I really like that moment where he looked down at the sledgehammer when he was about to go to Triple H, and then just throws it down and just spears him. That was a really good spear, by the way, as well.
Yeah, it was a great spear, and I did like that spot as well. Like Goldberg, you know, yeah, I think the idea was supposed to be like he's not Triple H, so he doesn't need like a weapon or anything like that. He wants to get it done on his own.
Yeah, that's me too. Like he can win by just being him and what he does in the ring, and he doesn't need like help by anyone to be champion. Like that was really good.
Yeah, so Goldberg does retain the world's heavyweight championship here. What'd you think of this match, Face Boss?
Um, Overall, I thought this match was okay as a main event, and especially as of the title. I thought maybe they could have done more, but then again, I think it's unfair when you're like following all those matches in the cars, and then you come down to this match, and it's how do you live up to the hype. But I thought the rank, like the targeting of like the leg and doing the psychology behind that, I thought that was really well done. And Goldberg retaining, I thought was much needed because I think you've had Triple H as a champion for a very long time. So having like Goldberg still be the champion worked, and having him still like scratch and claw, and even with his injury, and he still wins. I think that's a really good story to tell.
Yeah, it was as much as I am a fan of Triple H. It was nice that so I have somebody else as champion for a bit, in Goldberg, and I did like this match. It was a pretty solid match. I did like the targeting of the ankle. I thought that was good psychology as well. The interference of Evolution was also pretty good as well. So I did like this match. I don't know if it needed to be the main event, considering the matches that it had to follow, but I think it still did its job as being a solid main event that closed the show and sort of left everybody happy with Goldberg as champion.
Yeah, so after this, does Triple H have like another round with Goldberg, or where does Triple H go from here?
Yeah, the next month at Armageddon, Triple H ends up beating Goldberg and Kane in a triple threat match to win back the world title. And
Ugh,
Evolution,
really?
yeah, it does. And Evolution ends up, they all win titles at Armageddon. So they pretty much close out the entire year as champions, all of them.
Wow, what do you think of that? Of all of them being champions in that time frame?
I think it works for that particular time because Batista and Ric Flair are tag team champions. Randy Orton's the Intercontinental champion. Triple H is the world champion. So it definitely works. The final event of the year with Evolution all holding gold. It sort of creates the story of who can stop Evolution, who can dethrone Evolution. So I do like that sort of story that they sort of end the year on.
Was Ric Flair a tag team champion with Batista?
Yes, he was.
I can't imagine Ric Flair being tag team champion looking at him, but hey, good on him, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think Evolution, though, as you're right, holding all those titles at the end of the year creates a sense of urgency, probably for those other faces that you like they have to win and take away one of the titles, like from the Evolution group. So it does create that sense of like something needs to change.
hmm so what do you think of this show as a whole?
Overall, I had a really fun time with the show. All of the matches on the show like was built up and mattered, like they have good importance, really good video packages, and the commentary overall I thought was really good for each of the matches. And like the best match for me was probably Shane versus Kane and the Survivor Series team with Austin versus Eric Bischoff. They had some really good moments in the stories with Stone Cold, of course, with his retirement at the time. And then you had Kane helping Mr. McMahon and thinking what happens from there. And then, of course, you did have this main event with Goldberg retaining, and like the crowd, of course, was so happy for that. And maybe the weakest match on the card was probably like the opener. But even though I say that the opening match still had a fun element with all of the teams in there and with John Cena and his move finishing off the match. So I didn't think this was like a weak show. I thought this was a really fun show.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. This was a really good show. I really enjoyed this show. The weakest match was the opening match, but even then, it still had its moments, and it wasn't a bad match by any means. Loved the ambulance match. Loved the Raw Survivor Series match. Loved the Buried Alive match. A solid main event to end the match. Then we also had some good tag team title matches and some good women's title matches. So overall, it was a really good Survivor Series.
Yeah, it was a good. I like Survivor Series because it's that time where you see the two brands come together. And nowadays, sort of with like brands always like sort of mixing and matching, and then you have so many drafts, you sort of don't get that old school kind of feel back.
Yeah, totally.
But it was a really good show.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So I
and I
think that
thought,
just
yeah, it was
go
a,
on.
and I was about to say, the Kane and the Shane match, of course, like not seeing them ever face off before, it was really cool to see that sort of style of match again.
Yeah, their Unforgiven 2003 match is pretty good as well, in that last man standing match.
Oh, yes.
So I think that just about does it for this episode. Where can they find you at, Face Boss?
You guys can find me on Twitter. It's Stacey Boss, and I normally tweet about Raw and SmackDown, and I do pay-per-views, just sort of what my thoughts are on those. Or you can find me on Cage Side Seats, and I'm normally sometimes in the nightly, or you can find me in like the Raw thread when we talk about Raw.
And you can find me on Twitter at MetalMat15. I hang out on the nightly on K Side Seats, on the nightly and the daily, as well as the SmackDown and East and NXT threads. The nightly we are doing nightly Kiss album reviews. Tonight is going to be on Sonic Boom, their 2009 album, so that should be interesting to talk about. And guess we can go ahead and plug some podcasts. Violent Wrestling Podcast every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. Talk about everything in the week of WWE and the Indies. Shooting the Breeze every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. And tomorrow, you might hear a familiar voice on the show. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I
Two
hope
guys.
everyone has a good day.
Yep. It should be an interesting episode to say the least. Two Guys, One Sport every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Um, who else? Who else? Who else? Oh, Connoisseurs of Wrestling every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Tigris Minion, Biff Kensington, George Estaves, and Legends Lover all talk about old school wrestling. So that's a very fun podcast. So definitely check it out. And a new show, Grounds for Development, every Thursday morning at 10 a.m. At 11 a.m. Eastern, or I can't remember the time. I believe it's at 10 a.m. Central. Biff Kensington and Five, aka the Saskatchewan Spinner and Nerve Hold, talk about NXT and 205 Live. It just started, so go ahead and give them some support. And a brand new episode of the Ruthless Aggression Era podcast begins. It starts next Friday, because next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. And next week, a brand new episode. Me and MDS will be talking about Raw Roulette 2003. So that'll be an interesting episode to do. I believe that was the first ever women's steel cage match in WWE history. Lita versus Victoria. So that'll be interesting to talk about.
Not nice.
Yeah, me and MDS had a lot of fun doing the Raw Roulette 2002 episode. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the 2003 episode of Raw Roulette.
Very cool.
Yep. So I think that just about does it for this episode of the Roots of the Russian Era podcast. Thank you all for listening. And have anything else to say before we go?
No, just everyone have a good rest of the day wherever you are, and yeah, thank you for listening.
Yep. Thanks for being on, Face Boss.
No problem.
So thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next time. See ya.
Bye.